will continue. Hello. Dear all of you, thank you for your presence. The conference of today and tomorrow is organized by the Center of Historical Ontology in collaboration with the Department of History and Philosophy of Science at the University of Athens and the Finnish Institute. It has also received support from the Foundation for Research in Effective History. Why then the topic? Aristotle and the philosophy of life. Aristotle needs no presentation. But some words about the philosophy of life can be meaningful, as the expression suggests something quite weighty. What is meant is, however, is a particular, even if quite heterogeneous, philosophical current which was heavily present in Europe in the late 19th and the first half of the 20th century. In German it's called Lebensphilosophie. It is called Lebensphilosophie. And some of its important figures were German: Friedrich Nietzsche, Wilhelm Dilthey, Ludwig Klages, and Georg Simmel. The current also had an influence on Max Scheler, Walter Benjamin, and several others. In France, but in fact all over Europe, a dominating figure was Henri Bergson. I will not give a complete overview, as the Lebensphilosophie was influential in so many European and also American countries, but it's worth noticing that there has been a revival of the topics in recent times. As you can see in the general presentation of the conference, a core issue concerns the role of nature in human life. Nature is a polysemic notion which originally meant something which spontaneously springs forth, very much like the Greek physis, which is linked to growth. This is often overlooked in the contemporary discussion, where naturalism and materialism are often confounded. Or more precisely, nature is interpreted from a materialistic point of view. Such a position would be foreign, both to most philosophers of life and to Aristotle. Aristotelian physics, classical physics in the profound sense of the word classical, is certainly not mainly a question of quantifiable nature, but involves an important element of life, not least because of Aristotle's interest in biology. Modern biology, especially in the end of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century, however, turns partly away from life as its central notion. From a positivist point of view, vitalism is, and something often called crypto-vitalism, seem to be major adversaries in biology, often linked to the critical teleological conceptions of nature. Still, in biological research, a teleologically impregnated language is still quite present, and there has been a certain rehabilitation of teleology in recent work. Ernst Mayr speaks of teleonomy, and Ayala even uses the original concept of teleology. In physics, there has been a parallel evolution which increases the distance to mechanistic conceptions. In short, there is no single conception which will tell us how we should understand nature and natural science. One interesting proposition quite present in the philosophy of life is to regard life as an accessible while lived nature. Phenomenologists like Merleau-Ponty have defended similar views. This inevitably raises questions about the relation between nature and history. How is nature present in the historicity of human existence? Wilhelm Dilthey has dedicated a lot of his work to this difficult relationship, and at the same time offered a theory of science in which historical life is at the center. Indeed, it should be evident that history is carried by incarnated beings dependent not only on their own natural bodies, but on the soil underneath, the light from above, the air of respiration, plants and water, bees and worms, other animals. Nature is omnipresent in the historical process, but differs qua historical experience from the nature of experimental and today often instrumental science. Historical experience is not mainly a matter of observation, but an experience we have to live through, even if it certainly allows calculation and experiments to a certain degree. Still, when this latter, very specific form of experience becomes dominant, we construct the conditions of experience and are thus at risk to lose one of its essential aspects, that is, the capacity to profit from genuine otherness through exposition. The world becomes increasingly virtual. The situation can even create strange fantasies of replacing human beings with machines, forgetting that every machine is the product of a very particular cultural history. Today, the sphere of so-called artificial intelligence seems to confirm this aspiration of humanity to replace itself with one of its fabrications. In such an epoch, both the Aristotelian tradition and the later philosophy of life regain new importance. Both traditions can shed light on what is lost in such a logic of disincarnation. One evident aspect of disincarnation is loss of feeling, but there are several others. For those extreme rationalists who have a difficulty to regard feelings as an important theoretical issue, one can add another aspect: judgment. The classical definition of judgment is a combination of a certain content with a voluntary act, for example, affirmation or negation. The faculty of judgment is not only important in aesthetical, moral, and political matters, but also in knowledge. Without judgment, everything would be equally important or unimportant. Thus, there would not even be knowledge without judgment. That is, without the interaction between content and will that defines the judgment. There are certainly several other areas which cannot be covered by virtual systems, but the faculty of judgment is interesting because it stresses something which is present both in Aristotle and among several philosophers of life. Act and activity. Even if we don't interpret the act as a voluntary one, the perspective can offer some insights. One of them, so it seems to me, is that there is always behind definite contents something which is certainly not less real than the picture conveyed by such contents. This is also true for those noematic contents that are so frequent in our way of speaking of the objectively given. But it's not my role to anticipate your contributions, so I stop here, hoping that this conference can shed further light on these matters, the core of our intellectual and vital life. I will now pass the word to Sergio Givone, who will open the conference with a talk on Aristotle and the Presocratic philosophy.